I
I
guess.
went like, oh, when that happened. I was like,
Oh,
ooh. September 16th was so giant that we could
yes.
not review all the movies that came out that day on that day. So we're spreading out the love. And today we're doing The Woman King.
We are the homie.
Viola Davis stars. This is a historical drama set in 18th century Africa, specifically the Kingdom of Dahomey, where they have an entire army of women that is led by Viola Davis's character Naniska. The king who rules over the kingdom is played by John Boyega, and they are dealing with the presence of European slavers and the slave trade, and how some African kingdoms were basically collaborating with the slave traders to wipe out their enemies and diminish their numbers. And where that runs into real life history has created some controversy around this film, which we'll certainly get into. But we follow a character named Nawi, played by Thuso Mbedu, who was incredible on Underground Railroad, which we talked about on our Patreon. And she plays a young woman who turns down all of the marriage proposals that her parents have tried to arrange for her. So the father just dumps her in the palace, and she winds up becoming part of this crew of fighting women. They manage to fend off potential invaders and help the kingdom transition to a more agricultural economy in the hopes of staving off having to be in cahoots with the European slave traders.
Mm. Also, this movie kicks all kinds of ass.
So much ass, yes.
You make it sound like it's super dry, and it's not. It's so fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of fighting, and there's a lot of like nighttime raids, and there's figuring out other things to do with gunpowder besides putting it into a rifle. And those are the best parts of the film. This is directed by Gina Prince-Bythewood, who has a very eclectic filmography at this point, but most recently did The Old Guard for Netflix, which was great and was one of the better, I think, sort of comic book adaptations of recent years. Her sense of choreography and editing for an action sequence, I think, is really terrific. And you have a whole variety, like in the dead of night or in the middle of the day, like all kinds of different locations and settings for these scenes. I think the performances are really powerful. Like Viola Davis just is one of those film actresses who just knows how to give face. The camera is on her and you're just seeing all these different things happening, and it's intense, and it's really, you really just buy this character and all the stuff that she's had to endure. Thuso Mbedu is a great kind of audience surrogate to sort of bring us into this world and describing how these things are working. Lashana Lynch, who is most recently in No Time to Die, as the woman who sort of is the head of, she's kind of the drill sergeant, I guess. She's in charge of training everybody. Just really magnetic and compelling. Where this movie falls apart for me, and before we get into the controversial aspect of it, which I'm barely qualified to address, but on a screenwriting level, this movie is constantly dipping into such cliches. Like the whole thing of Nawi kind of learning to become a soldier is we've seen in so many World War II movies, and An Officer and a Gentleman, where the brash outsider has to learn to be a team player and follow orders, and all that stuff. Just that felt so familiar. There's a very soap opera-y development that transpires that I'm not going to spoil between two characters. It just is okay, we're going to do that. Okay.
I went oh, when that happened. I was ooh.
For me, that was really, movie? We're going to, okay, fine. Let's ride that out and see where it goes. Very more. And then, as you pointed out, it's got about 8 endings.
It has 2 or 3 endings too many. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's so much that I like about this movie, so much that I think is exciting about this movie. And obviously we're long overdue to have more movies like this. I don't think it entirely works, but the stuff that's good is good enough to make it worth seeing.
I was just so wowed by the verve of this film and the energy of it. And
Yes.
it's so alive, and yet it has these quieter moments of connection between these women. And it's not just fight.
Yes, absolutely.
Although the battle scenes are killer, I got to shout out Tara Lynn Shropshire, who is Gina Prince-Bythewood's longtime editor. She edits all of her films. And think about how many movies we see where you have, the obligatory montage sequence of the training montage, or just the fight sequences are just edited so quickly that you cannot see what's actually happening or who's doing what to who. And here there is such an emphasis on the muscularity and the artistry of the choreography that it's so enthralling, and you feel like you want to root for them to kick all kinds of ass. And it's exciting to see women being celebrated in this way. Lashana Lynch, damn, she is just ferocious, and she is so physical, so powerful. And there are moments where she's just like about to burst because she's so full of emotion or excitement or whatever it is. And you really feel that there's an immediacy to her screen presence. It's very exciting. But then she gets to be funny too. She gets to have her way with a really low-key, sly, deadpan one-liner as she's like taking Thuso Mbedu's character under her wing. And Thuso Mbedu, yes, she has to be our conduit. I do think it's important that they gave her some characteristics. She's not just like the wide-eyed naif in this.
No. Absolutely. But I'm just saying, I felt like, the fact that she chafes against, certain aspects of the training, obviously, of course, that's the drama part of it. But there were so many of the specifics, particularly once we start getting into the montages, which are well done. But it just, I thought it just reminded me of we've seen this hero's journey so often in this way. And yes, it's a woman, and yes, it's a woman in an all female fighting force. And so that's different. But the so much of the plot mechanics of it felt like, oh, we're doing this again.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some familiar structural things going on here. There are some tropes, but they were so well done, and it's all so well acted throughout. We haven't mentioned Sheila Atim yet, who is also an Underground Railroad, who is like Viola Davis's right-hand woman and kind of like a spiritual advisor. And I like that friendship between them, which is clearly so affectionate, but like a little prickly in a fun way. The fact that it's not just everyone being ferocious and on guard and intense all the time, I think really rounds this out. Like there is joy, there is genuine sisterhood, there are moments of just like spontaneous bursts of dance or song, and it feels real, and it gives you a sense of the pacing of this life. There is an initiation sequence that is a moment of tenderness and solidarity for them that like almost kind of reminded me in some ways of my own sorority initiation. Like we didn't slice our arms and all bleed into the same bowl.
What the hell were y'all doing?
But like the way they dress and the songs and the candlelight, like I just felt like it was a nice balance of really badass warrior women doing their thing, but also some intimacy and tenderness.
No, absolutely. And I think that's what you get when you make a film like this that is about women. There is always going to be, I think, an emotional aspect that like a bunch of dudes, are going to like butt heads together and like, yell at each other's faces, and that's going to pass for, sort of that's their emotional bonding moment. So yes, they do lean into all that stuff. Again, there's so much about this movie that I do like and that I think is effective.
Should we touch briefly on what the controversy is?
Sure. Yeah. So there was a trending hashtag on the opening weekend of the film that was boycott Woman King. And it was coming from Black Twitter, basically, or a lot of Black people on Twitter who were saying that the Dahomey Kingdom actually was very much involved in the slave trade and was sort of infamous for like selling out rival, kingdoms and capturing people from other that weren't Dahomey and selling them off to the Europeans and making a lot of money and building their power source that way. And so they're offended by the notion that this movie is sort of glorifying the Dahomey for being the complete opposite, when historically that doesn't hold up. Again, I don't know the intricacies here. I'm not qualified to speak to it, but a lot of people who, do seem to know what they're talking about do call that out. Is this an ongoing issue that historical biopics play fast and loose with the facts? Certainly. Does the specifics of the horrifying things of which the actual Dahomey Nation is being accused of make that different? I think, a case could be made. Yes.
But you also see Viola Davis's character trying to persuade the king
right.
to get out of slave trade and get into palm oil.
Yes, the movie takes a very firmly, they boldly take the anti-slavery stance, which good on them. But the question is whether or not that reflects what the people being, the specific people being portrayed here did and advocated for.
Yes. I also enjoyed John Boyega real fast because he's like a fun, arrogant, preening performance, totally different from anything we've ever seen him do before.
He gets to be, you know what? It was a movie about women who fight. He gets to be ornamental.
Yeah, he just hangs out and just like preens and looks pretty. What is your number, my friend?
Give it a 6.8.
I'm saying 8.5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's out there as number 1 this past weekend at the box office. Let us know if you have seen it. If you're going to see it, check it out.